Anthony Ferraro, Dan Mancina. Two blind guys collide to bring you Four Bad Eyes Podcast.
Anthony, how many times have you went to a website and found that you can't even use it?
Dan, way too many times, and I'll tell you, it is so annoying because it keeps me up at night. Not only websites are inaccessible to the blind, but they're inaccessible to most disabilities. Also, aside from websites, it's the e-commerce store.
You know how many times I've gone to a website, I want to spend some money, I want to buy a t-shirt, a mug, something because I want to support them, I love them, and I can't because the website doesn't say anything. It's a bunch of images.
It's images that aren't labeled, and it's really frustrating. But did you know there's a solution?
There's a professional that can fix that for you and find a price that'll rip the pants right off of your legs.
It's our newest sponsor, Inclusive Web. And that not only can they find a solution for you, but if you're curious, is my website accessible to the disabled community?
How much is this going to cost me?
Well,
What's the deal? What do I need to do?
You
They
could-
have a free offer.
Free offer to check if your website or e-commerce is accessible. And if not, they will help you find a price that works for everyone to get it going.
Inclusive, INCLUSIVE web.co/4badeyes. Tell them again, Anthony.
That's right, Dan. There is no more excuses, ladies and gentlemen. You go to inclusiveweb.co/FOURBADEYES today. Let's get back to it. Welcome to Studio 4. Four Bad Eyes. We have a special.
This gentleman was skating, let's see, 20 years before I was born, over 20 years before I was born, and has been a pillar in the Michigan skateboard scene from the 80s. When was your first shop?
My first
79.
shop opened in
the
September of 79, actually.
79.
Mr. George Leichweis.
George Liechweis.
In the house.
Look at that crowd for you, George.
We even got Nick Mullins,
Thank you,
special
thank you.
guest,
We
off
Got
to the
us-
side
Yep,
here.
first ever audience.
There you go.
You.
First live
What is
app.
that, Soldier Boy over there? You.
He got front row.
Front row. You still can't see us, though.
But you've heard his name on here a million times, and we've talked about modern Royal Oak.
We talk the modern
Only
skate
the
park.
good things are true.
You know?
There's I don't think I have one bad thing to say about
Thank
that
you,
place.
sir.
Not a single. He's opened his shop and parked to us after hours, before hours.
I have
Many
a broken
times.
cane hanging up there or
You do,
something. I
yeah.
got Dan's got his
Got his board up there and his Guinness World
Guinness World
plaque
Record
up there.
You know?
That's where Dan broke the Guinness World Record of longest grind for the blind.
It was epic. It was a battle.
Nick's gonna take that on that new rail George just built.
Yeah, I just put a rail in. It's
I gotta
60
see
feet
that.
long.
Oh my god.
Go big or go home, you know.
4 kinks. How many kinks on that thing?
There's
One.
two kinks, but
That's a kinky rail.
it is.
Kinky railers, 40 feet of flat, one
Gets-
section.
It's
all
real
those-
dangerous at the end, I'll tell you.
For all those fetish skaters out there, it's
Yeah.
very kinky. So George,
Yes,
you
sir.
grew up in Detroit, am I correct?
I did. 6 Mile, Illinois. I grew up in the city of Detroit. Went to
6
University of
Mile.
Detroit High School and University of Detroit.
It was called University of Detroit High School?
Yep. Still is.
Wow, it's a
Mhm.
university. Did you have siblings? Do you have
I
siblings?
have an older brother and 2 older sisters. Yeah.
So you're the youngest of 4.
I'm the baby.
I didn't
I'm
know
the baby.
anyone-
Me and Dan are both the babies.
Really?
We're the babies. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, the
Good
baby
deal.
club.
Youngest of 4.
You're once a baby, you're always the baby.
I
They'll
still
never let
haven't
you lay
grown
it
up.
down.
You know, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem, really.
So, were your siblings a big influence on you growing up? Were you close?
Yes. My oldest sister was about 8 years older, but she kind of took care of us when we were younger. And then I have another sister that's about 3 years older than me and a brother about 1.5 years older. So, yeah, very close, you know.
What's your heritage? What is Leichweis? What is that?
Likewise, it's German. Actually, in Germany, it's Leichweis.
Leichweis.
And it's been Americanized to likewise, I'm sure. And
Guten Tag.
and my mom's maiden name was Quinn. So German Irish.
I was gonna say
German
Irish.
Irish.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
Italian. A big family. Was your mom in a big family?
You know, actually, we had 4 kids, and we're Roman Catholic, so big neighborhood. Everybody had double-digit kids.
Yeah. My mom was one of 13.
My mom, bless her heart, was pregnant 11 years. Lost 7 out of 11. So
Wow.
she lost
Really?
1 before me and 2 after me. So I feel very lucky to be blessed to be in this world. And
No way.
and back in those days, it wasn't a sure thing, and it still isn't a sure thing when you're pregnant and having
Of
kids and stuff.
course.
But even back then, it was a lot less of a sure thing.
Right.
And but we, I guess, tried to have a big family.
Home. So you would have been. I'm still gonna say you are one of 11 because even though we lost them.
Probably so. Yeah.
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 That's wild.
Yeah, I think the record in our neighborhood was 17. Same husband and wife.
17 kids.
That was the
a lot.
record.
That's when cable didn't exist.
Exactly. Post World War II, baby.
So everyone kind of ran around together, right?
Oh yeah, like back in the day, they just go play and come back when it's dark.
And that's when you would play like stickball in the street and stuff like that.
Yeah, we play just any games. We'd ride our bikes a lot, and then in the wintertime we'd play King of the Hill because I had my grade school was right across the street from me, and they'd pile the snow up seemed like 20 stories tall, but we were only like 2 foot tall. But
Yeah.
we played King of the Hill over there. Do that. We had a little baseball diamond. Played tackle football without pads in the field and all that. All the mainstream sports.
Did you
Baseball,
play-
football, basketball.
Did you play mainstream sports in school?
I did. Yeah, I was an all-star baseball player. I was a starter on the football team, both sides. Kicked field goals for the team, and then I could actually dunk a basketball when I was in high school.
No way.
And I'm only like 5'10", so I had some
Got
hops back there.
baby.
Yeah.
White man can't jump. Bullshit.
Right. I think
Isn't
that's
there
why
a-
I made the team. I could dunk in warm-ups.
Isn't there a photo of you in modern on? Are they roller skates or roller blades?
Rollerblades, actually. I'm the kind of guy that will do anything for promotion almost. And back in the day, it turns out I was the 3rd store in the world ever to sell rollerblade because I was a hockey player from Detroit. And
I was going to ask you if you ever played hockey.
yeah, and this guy had a 10x10 booth in the basement of a trade show in Long Beach, and they looked like these hockey-looking skates with wheels on them. I'm like, I don't have to pay for ice time. I can skate in the
roller
parking lot
skate.
for free. And
Yeah.
so I bought them. I ended up selling them to the East Lansing High hockey team. They went 45-3 that year, almost won the state championship because they were in better shape than anybody. So it was originally dry land training for hockey. And so over the years, it became like family fun and fitness. The guy had sold the business to a richer person, and he took it to California to make it family fun and fitness. And then it blew up in the late 80s and the early 90s. And so we were doing some demos. We used to teach a lot of lessons because nobody knew what rollerblade was. And we're like, oh, yeah, it's these wheels in the row, and this is how you skate and all this stuff. You had to explain it to people because it was new.
Wait,
And
so sorry, ice skates were before rollerblades? Or you just finally saw them?
no. Well, you mean me selling ice skates, you mean?
No, when you saw the rollerblades and you were like, these are kind of like hockey skates
Yeah,
with
with
wheels,
on
on.
them. Yeah. So I played ice hockey, yeah. And then these and we always, there was only like 3 sheets of ice in Detroit when I grew up. So you had to go to Windsor Arena at like 3 a.m. just to get ice time and play hockey. And
No little local ponds? You wouldn't flood anything?
oh yeah, we had the best backyard. All my buddies at the Belden Wings, we had a little street called Belden, and my buddy had 2 houses. We took the fence out of the middle. We had boards all the way around. We had penalty boxes.
Yeah.
We had nets behind the goals, so that if your shot was too high, we kept it in the yard. And
Nice.
yeah, it was the best. We called ourselves the Belden Wings, and we
Little hockey gang.
and in the whole neighborhood there was a whole bunch of different ponds, and we'd go to different home and away. We'd go play the
shit.
neighbors and stuff
That's
like that.
awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Would
fun.
you light it up at all? Was that before that kind of happened? Any kind of lighting up at night?
Oh, you mean as far as lights in the backyard?
Yeah, was it?
No, we didn't have that, but like everybody took turns at night hosing down the rink because you had to pay your dues by smoothing out the rink and stuff.
Oh wow. I always wanted to hose snow.
Yeah,
I
did you?
always wanted to do that. So I saw it on a cartoon, and I was like, "That's real."
Yeah.
And I freaking because where I grew up, it's too cold. The hose are turned off,
Yeah.
so you can never do that. And I remember taking like buckets of water and trying to put them on the snow in my backyard, and it never worked.
No. Yeah. It got, back in the day, it still now does get cold, but like Detroit used to be solid cold all winter long, and you could get some good pond hockey going out there and everything. So,
I love a backyard rink. So much fun.
How old were you when you first got on a skateboard?
So when I got on a skateboard, I was probably in my early teens. I actually skated in the 60s. And on those old roller derby boards with really thick, piece
Clay
of wood
wheels.
with clay wheels and loose ball bearings. And, we grew up in Detroit and the sidewalks weren't that good. So, you'd go down the driveway and make a right-hand turn, and then you'd hitch on a bumper for a couple of blocks. And you're like, all right, that's all we can do with that. Let's go play baseball, And so then I didn't skate on a skateboard for a while until actually I was in college during the urethane wheel thing in the 70s. And so I kind of missed the whole advent of the urethane wheel. And then in 1979 in the summer, I went to Venice Beach, California to visit a couple friends from Detroit that moved out there. And they took me to Venice Beach, and it was like, waves crashing in, surfers, skateboarders, Muscle Beach, women in bikinis.
It was like the Mecca.
It was
at
it,
that
yeah.
time.
And I wanted to bring that lifestyle back to Michigan. It was I had such a good time. And
Were you like in awe by it?
I was. It was funny because my buddies all outdoor roller skated because it was a big thing in the 70s, and I'm like, I'm not roller skating, man. I'm a hockey player. I'm not going to do that. And it took them about 3 days to talk me into renting a pair. And I rented a pair, and I skated 20 miles. We went down the boardwalk. It was just like I was just taking it all in. I saw Jim Brown on roller skates, and ain't nobody calling him a sissy. So I was like, there was skateboarders at Venice and surfers, and like I said, girls in bikinis. It was a lifestyle.
Dukes.
Yeah, it was a lifestyle that I was thinking was cool as hell, and I want to bring it back to Michigan. So.
What made you stay in Michigan and not want to move?
Well, that's where I lived. I actually worked at Chrysler, being...
Selling cars?
No, I worked in the auto factories. I
Factory.
manufactured engines and stuff like that. And so I was making good money, but I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I knew that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And when I went out to Venice, and so in September of 79, opened a shop on 10 Mile and Woodward in Detroit when it was 10 Mile Road. Now it's a big highway and stuff. Right next to the Detroit Zoo.
So you were 24 when this happened?
I was 24, yeah, and I started with $1,000, and I've been trying to make that $1,000 back ever since.
That was the first shop I went to because that had to be around for a while. I'm pretty sure that you used to have the tent sales.
Yes, actually, we had a lot of tent sales, and
That's my first snowboard I bought was from there.
yeah, I got into snowboards in the early '80s too, like '81.
Burton Chopper from the tent sale with clicker bindings.
Clicker bindings. There you go. Yeah, K2. Yeah, I've been through a lot of phases of the snowboard thing. I actually started selling them before they had bindings on them, when it was just like staples and a
strap,
string, and you just the better you were, the faster you were going when you ate shit at the bottom of the hill. And,
Wait, so how soon after when you got back from California did you open that shop?
I was out there probably summer of '79. I opened in September '79.
Holy crap.
Wow, you
it
moved
was
quick.
it was a mission to find a way to get out of Chrysler.
Did you leave Chrysler before you went to California, or did you leave after?
I left after California, but before the shop.
So do you remember that day leaving Chrysler and thinking, oh shit, I really hope this works out?
No, you know what it was I got to say that it was a rough place to work because a lot of people didn't care about the quality of work in the 70s back then.
The environment.
The environment was bad, and I just wasn't into not doing quality work. So but it was good money, and it was something I could have lived with the rest of my life, but I just didn't want to being there. Plus, there was a lot of guys doing a lot of heavy drugs in there, and they all wanted me to do
Right.
it and all this. And I'm like, I don't need to be in this environment. And
I never knew the factories were like that back then.
It was probably rough, tough guys. No,
well,
or more junky type.
Well, it was in Taylor, Michigan, which we called Taylor, Tucky, because a lot of people from down south used to come up
Got
here,
some of those.
and they were all good people, but like just a lot of distractions. People making decent money and nothing, no time. It was rock and roll capital, and people just wanted to party all the time. And
Did you go down like kind of a dark party phase at all growing up, or did you tend to stay away from it?
it's funny. A lot of these kids nowadays, they look at me and they're like, "Oh, this straight edge business guy," And I was a kid. Back in the '70s, people didn't tell us drugs weren't good for us.
Yeah,
We
they
didn't
were
know.
everywhere.
We're like, "Yeah, I'll take the blue pill, sure, go." And
But you got out of that.
I got out of it. Yeah, we didn't have all the support groups they have nowadays either. You kind of had to get out of it on your own and figure things out.
No, and
stuff.
they even used to call drugs different things. I read in Greg Allman's autobiography. The only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons he even got hooked on heroin was that people would come up to him, and it was like a new drug at the time, and they were calling it doogie. It wasn't even
really?
called heroin, and he had no idea. He's like, oh, doogie, whatever, and then you're hooked.
Right.
So you saw a lot of people kind of go down the getting hooked on drugs probably, and
I did, especially at Chrysler, and growing up in Detroit. It wasn't my circle of friends weren't that bad, but they had, like, now that they get crack is a big deal, but back then we called it freebasing. And,
yeah.
And I gotta say that I'm really lucky that a lot of what's going on in the drug world these days didn't happen in my day, because I might have ended up dead myself.
Absolutely.
There's and that's the beauty of having the skate park, is that you can give people a diversion away from the wrong path. And it's number one, it's good therapy. Number two, it's a good distraction, and it keeps you busy, and it keeps the self-esteem up a little bit.
And drugs just make you worse at skating. That's just
Right.
It's a fact.
I try to explain to people, because back when we started, it was funny, because the first distributor I worked with had skateboards, roller skates, and ice skates, and I didn't even have any intention of selling ice skates, but I'm like, they got them,
And you're in Michigan.
I'll put them on the shelf, and so as time went on, you kind of diversify into different things, and in the mid '80s, it was funny because skateboarding wasn't terribly popular in the early '80s. It was kind of up and coming. It was really underground, and everybody looked down on skateboarders as a bunch of drug addicts and stuff. And I remember we would do these skate-a-thons in the mid '80s where I'd build these big vert ramps that are 50 feet wide and stuff, and we'd have a bunch of pros come in and skate it and raise money for Michigan School for the Blind, which was a school,
No way.
which is ironic,
That's insane.
Having connected with you guys back for about 4 or 5 years running, we did a fundraiser for Michigan School for the Blind, of which Stevie Wonder was probably their most notable graduate, and he actually talked about our fundraisers on like the Rick D's Top 40 and stuff. And
Fake blind. Just kidding. Everyone tries to say he's not really blind.
Seriously?
They'll say on my videos, "Oh, we got another Stevie Wonder." But
yeah, but he can play the piano.
oh yeah, he's amazing.
Have you met Stevie?
I've
ever
not
get to
met
meet
him.
him?
No,
Oh.
I have not.
I wanted to I want to know what the transition was like when you left Chrysler. Like, did you open the shop by yourself? Did you find the space right away? How did that process go?
It was me and several of our neighborhood guys together. One of the friends that I've been to school with since kindergarten was my manager, and I had a couple original guys that were kind of in on it, but then we're out of it pretty quickly. And then I didn't know a lot about the business or anything like that, and it's funny because I didn't know much about roller skating, but I got this book, anybody's how to roller skate book, and I read it, and I'm like, okay, I can sell these things, They got twice as many wheels and bearings as skateboards do, so and it's kind of the same thing. You're rolling around on wheels and bearings, and so the first few years was different. It's funny because everybody tells me there was a recession in the early 80s, and I didn't know it because I just opened and we were growing the business. And I probably could have done better, but we were just, happy to be in business and growing each year. And then by happenstance, I happened to open another store in East Lansing right across from Michigan State University way sooner than we should have. And when we were broke, and ended up being a kind of the flagship store for a while. Because there's 60,000 students across the street,
Right.
that are young and wanting to do something fun, And
It doesn't sound like a dumb idea to me.
No, it was good. It was it's because we were underfunded. We didn't have
Okay.
any money to grow the inventory or.
So this was all off like loans at the time?
One loan for my sister for
Oh, wow.
$3,000, and then we. What I did is I got video games in there, and video games was a big deal. People would stand in line for hours with rolls of quarters, and they'd come in and just throw quarters in these machines for a while, and that's kind of saved the business for a while.
Wow.
There. And then and it's funny because in the mid '80s, like '85, I got this letter from this company called Valterra, and it was a skateboard company, and they said there's going to be this movie coming out this year, and then skateboarding is going to blow up. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. It's and sure enough, this movie Back to the Future comes out. And skateboarding took off like wildfire.
Oh, I think Tony Hawk was in that as a stunt double.
Yeah, he might have been. Yeah, I know.
Not Back to the Future.
Not Back to the Future? Are you sure?
Yeah, not Back to the Future.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who was in it, but yeah, I don't think Tony was in that one. He was in. Was he in Gleaming the Cube or something?
Cube.
And
Yeah.
there was one where he didn't. Someone had done the tricks, and then they asked him to come do it, but they looked totally different, the style and everything, so they couldn't
He
use
grew
him.
too tall.
Yeah.
Right.
This is after. Or
Yeah.
I think
But this movie came out, and they were right, man. It blew up, man. It was like, and the beauty of it is, you got internet now, and everybody's like, oh, internet, you got to compete against these guys with a lot of money, and there's something to be said for that. But the big problem is that all the guys with all the money now know what's cool, like right away. Because of social media,
They're
and
studying the trends.
artificial intelligence and all that. They can see what's selling and what's buying, and they can knock it off in no time. Back in the day, we'd have a trend for 5 years or more, and then it was 4, then it was 3, 2, 1.
Because it wasn't so saturated by everything else, too.
Exactly, and there was no information. Like when rollerblade came out, and it wasn't really big at first because it was kind of like just training. But then when it became family fun and fitness, it blew up like crazy. But no one knew about it. So none of the department stores had them or anything. You had to come to my place.
it was
to
word
get
of
'em.
mouth.
Well, it's
and-
almost like when you went to Cali, you were so enamored by you didn't know about this culture that kind of existed.
Right.
And you came back, you were that guy that went away and came back to tell everyone, yeah, look, this is amazing what's happening here. Like, we got to get this here type of thing.
Yeah, and then when skateboard blew up after Back to the Future, no one knew, and it was just going off, and I had, like I had Vision Streetwear shoes in 12 different colors, and then Airwalk came out, and we had those, and then I was carrying, here's another part of the story. It was actually Modern Skate for a while, and then all my reps were like, if you don't have surf in your name, nobody's going to know you sell clothing, and so I had this 4x8 piece of wood up that was my sign that said Modern Skate. So I put another 4 feet up, painted it the same color, and put "and surf" on the end of it in 1985. So I became Modern Skate and Surf. And I sold Jimmy Z's and Gotcha and Quicksilver and Limpies
Volcom.
and Volcom. Actually, Volcom kind of came later because it was Quicksilver and Billabong kind of.
What about Rusty's?
Gotcha, Rusty. I sold, yeah.
Jenko jeans.
Jenko jeans in the 90s. In the 90s,
That was 90s. Those
Yeah,
were
that was
hot. The elephant cut.
the stovepipe legs and stuff. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Holy
Both with skateboarders and rollerbladers. It was a big
Yeah.
thing. And so that we brought the clothing in too, and then had the shoe, and we were under the radar for the longest time. I remember. People would mail us stuff, and I remember getting Nirvana stickers, and I didn't know what the hell Nirvana was because they weren't out yet, And all these college kids were in there. You got Nirvana stickers? I can't believe it. And we sold them all for like $1 a piece or something.
Wow.
And then next thing you know, Nirvana's like the next biggest thing,
Yeah.
So people were using skate shops to to promote things, and
Yeah.
as an underground
Because
kind of
people
thing.
that didn't even surf, like when I was growing up in my beach town, people would always wear surf brands. Like it was a big thing, even if you didn't do that stuff.
Right. Yeah. And
Becomes
it's
part
a
of the
lifestyle,
culture,
really,
yeah.
is what it is. It's a lifestyle that kind of transcends all board sports,
It does.
Snowboard, skateboard, surfboard, even now stand up paddle,
It's funny they're all S's. You ever notice that?
Yeah,
All
that's
the
true.
boards.
Skates, no.
Yeah.
Alliteration. But no, it was the late 80s and the 90s were really good because it was under the radar.
Did you have a skate park yet?
I did not. What I did was I always built ramps, and we just did it in parking lots, or every year we did the skate-a-thon for like 5 years in a row. And we built it, like at one time, the biggest ramp in the country was 48 feet wide. So I built one 50 feet wide, and I claimed the biggest ramp in the country. And
Great promo.
we had a bunch of pros come. Joe Johnson came, Bill Danforth, Bill Tocco, all the top AMs in the area came and skated, and we had like a vert contest. And so the next year, some guy in California built one 110 feet wide.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, I'm out. I tap.
I tap out on that one. I can't afford that. So
Did more than double, dude.
so we kept doing like roughly 50-foot ramps and doing this big
Second biggest
benefit.
ramp in the country.
Second biggest, yeah. And then, raising this money for Michigan School for the Blind each year. And I did some rollerblade events, and we raised money for Children's Hospital. And, always kind of tied into some kind of charity to give back. So, yeah, back in those days, we'd do some charity events and try to raise money for local charities and, give back to the community and try to teach the kids that, it's not all about you. It's all about everybody, and do some things. And so we did those several years in a row. And then 1989, these guys from the World Skateboard Association said, hey, we want to do this big pro contest in Lansing. And I'm thinking, I always dealt with Frank Hawk, and he was with the National Skateboard Association. I'm thinking, National Skateboard Association, World Skate, I don't care. It's a skateboard association. Well, I guess they were butting heads or something. And anyway, long story short, I built this 24-foot wide, 11-foot high vert ramp, spined to an 8-foot high, 16-foot wide vert ramp that was on a 3-foot platform. And it was kind of mimicking a ramp that they built out in California for like a Vision Streetwear contest or something. And we had all these pros come in, and it was actually Danny Way's first pro victory. He was 15 years old, and he came and he won the contest. And it's in his movie, Waiting for Lightning.
On the ramp you built?
On the ramp I built, and I'm actually... Everybody tells me I'm in the movie handing them the trophy.
No way.
And I didn't watch it forever, and then it was free on like, Amazon Prime. It was free, so I watched it, and sure enough, there I was handing the trophy. I thought they were thinking, I didn't, I was so tired after building that ramp, I didn't remember hardly
Who the hell
anything.
is that handsome devil?
So yeah, like we had a lot of big pros came out for that.
Did you immediately fall in love with building ramps? Because you built the best ramps I've ever been on.
Oh man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I've been building ramps a long time. I always wanted to build something skatable. I know what I like, and I built like these big old ramps, and then I built some street stuff too, and then I built some mini ramps and a little bit of everything, because you had to make your own ramps because there was no place to go.
Was there a roadmap like of how to build a ramp, or was it kind of just trial and error?
I think like Thrasher had a little booklet on how to build a ramp, and I'd certainly do some research on it to make sure I was getting it right. And over the years, I learned how to build them stronger and better.
Do you build them by yourself?
I build a lot of them by myself or with other help. I design them. I've designed a lot of different ramps that a lot of people have helped me build because there's a lot of grunt work involved. And like we did a park downtown Detroit called Wayfinding. And actually, Dan Gilbert hired me to build this park, and they called me like I had already put out the bid for the wood and designed the park and everything. They only gave me 5,000 square feet, and I'm all about putting as many people in a park as you can get to have fun at the same time, and not have it all cross traffic and cluttered. And so they called me up and they're like, well, Tony Hawk's friends with Dan Gilbert, do you mind if he put some input into this park? And I'm thinking, well, if George builds a park, about 5 people might give a shit. But I'm like, if Tony Hawk's involved, everybody's going to care, And I've met Tony before. He's been to he actually came to one of our skate-a-thons back in the 80s and stuff when he was like 17 years old. So I'm not best buddies or anything, but I know him. And so I said, yeah, and I talked to him about what he wanted to design. And I put several things that he wanted in there, but I kind of made it my own so that we could put more people on it. And we built this park downtown Detroit, and it was very popular. And then we've just moved it recently to a community center called Butzel Community Center in kind of like west side of Detroit. And there's an ice rink there. There's a gym. There's soccer fields. There's basketball. And then they made it 4 times the size. Now it's 20,000 square feet. And it's got a half pipe and a bunch of street stuff. And you just walk on for free and skate it. So, it's...
that was the first time I met Tony, was at the wayfinding opening.
It was, I got to tell you, it's funny because you were skating the box.
Were you sighted at the time?
No.
He had his cane with him, and I think I'd probably met you before, but I didn't know you at all.
Yeah, that was before all.
And I saw you down there, and I was standing on the kind of the deck of the ramp that goes with the quarter pipe that matched up to it to go into the street area, and I was filming you, and Tony was riding the half pipe, and he pulls up next to me, and he looks. And he saw you skating there, and he pulled his phone out, and he filmed you.
He came up to me. He's like, Dan, and I know his voice, but I knew Riley, his son, was there. I was like, Tony, because I didn't know if they had the same voice.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Do you mind if I film you? And I was like, of course, yeah.
Right.
I remember that moment vividly.
And he posted you, and it got tens and tens of thousands of looks.
That's what popped my Instagram like huge for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
He like tripled my followers just by posting a video of me. Yeah.
I think you made a
50,
huge
50
impression
remarks.
on him for sure.
Yeah, that was cool. And they had a big after party after. I got to hang with them, and
That's sweet.
that was wild.
You seem to always get the biggest names involved, which is really cool. Your promotion skills are incredible, the marketing and stuff like that.
I like doing big things that are that attract attention and obviously present these sports in a good light.
Well, and you're constantly giving back. Like, what made you choose? I find this so trippy that you were donating to the Michigan School of the Blind.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
What made you choose them out of anyone?
I don't know. I was in East Lansing, and that was Lansing, and we were just looking for a charity to do something. We happened to kind of randomly pick that as one to do. I didn't know really any blind people back then.
What a foresight of like what was to come.
And it ended up year after year they were real appreciative of the money we gave them, and I'm sure it was a drop in the bucket to their budget, but but the awareness that we gave, a school for people that had sight problems, visual impairments, and I didn't even put 2 and 2 together when I met you guys.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing this.
I didn't even put that together, but like that was kind of ironic that that's one of the first charities we ever did anything for.
That is
insane.
So cool.
Yeah,
and you used to do the Macy Day Parade a bunch. You still do, right?
It's the Detroit. It's called America's Thanksgiving Parade in Detroit, and it's this in 2022. We actually did. That was our 20th time we've done it. We've done it 20 years, and we started in '99. I actually had the first year was Chris Gentry and Toss Pappas came out and skated there. And then the second year, I had Max DeFore come out with his girlfriend, who's now his wife. He came out, and he was busting 540s on this vert ramp that I had driving down Woodward Avenue.
Driving down
while you were moving?
They didn't let us skate it while it was moving early on, but now we skate it while it's moving. It's a whole different ramp now. It's only 6 to 7 feet, but like the first one was actually a 11.5-foot vert ramp that was only 16 feet wide. So it was sitting on a 3-foot high trailer. So the deck was 14.5 feet off the ground. And I built the railings so they could fold over to go under the people mover and then fold them back up for TV time because it was too tall.
People mover is like the train that goes downtown here. Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes over the road like way up there. And And so we did it for 2 years. It was funny because we did it for 2 years. And then the people that run the parade company, they didn't understand what we were doing. And I didn't have any money to keep paying for the float. I built the float. And so they gave it to me with my name on it for a couple of years. But then after that, you're supposed to pay them like a bunch of money to be in the parade. And so they kind of kicked me out of the parade because it wasn't Mother Goose. It wasn't like total, Christmas theme or something. And this was like 2000,
And how many shops did you have open at that time?
Let's see. In 2000, I probably had 2. I probably just had 2 then. I got up to 5 at one time. But
5 shops?
Yeah.
All in Michigan?
All in Michigan, yeah. 2 indoor skate parks and 5 retail shops, yeah. So, yeah. But so a couple of years later, I'm at my friend's birthday party. And a guy I grew up with that we played softball with at Hines Park and stuff, he's like, hey, George, you want to be in the parade again? And I'm like, he says, I'm going to be the chairman for like the next 3 years.
Sick.
And his name is Matt Cullen, and he was the guy that brokered the Renaissance Center deal for GM, and was a big mover and shaker in Detroit. And I said, yeah, and so I had to build a whole new float, and I figured this time I'll build one like 6 to 7 foot where the local guys could shine, and as far as the general public sees it, it's amazing to them no matter whether it's 12 feet high or 7 feet high,
Yeah.
and so the deck's actually 10 feet off the ground because it's on a 3-foot platform. But so we've been in it 18 more years since then.
That's wild.
And it's one of the first years we were in there, they're like, yeah, the biggest cheers were for Danny Glover until the modern skate float came by, and everybody was cheering, and then they interviewed some kid on TV, and they're like, what's your favorite float? And they're thinking it's going to be like Santa or something else. And he goes, the Tony Hawk float. And I'm like, yeah, we're in now, so.
Because what year did the first video game come out?
I think Atari was out in the 70s.
No, the Tony Hawk.
skater.
Oh, the Tony Hawk video
Yeah.
game. Oh, that I don't know.
Because that made everyone associate
Probably in the 90s, yeah.
skateboarding.
I was
with
going to
Tony
say
Hawk.
late 90,
Yeah.
2001, 2000.
Yeah, right around there, turn of the century. Or
When
something.
was it when skateboarding took a huge drop? Was it the early 90s?
I'd say 91 to 94. It was, what happened was the boards were like 10 inches wide in the 80s. And to be honest with you, more people could balance on them. Not that they could do a lot of tricks with them necessarily.
But you could land on them easy, like it was
But
sturdier.
you could just stand on it easier. This guy, I say they got the monster trucks on them, and you could balance on that thing. And well, then in the early 90s, for some reason, when street skating started to happen,
7-inch wide.
yeah, they were like 7.5, 7
Oh my
3/4.
God.
We sold wheels that were called bearing covers, and they were 39 millimeter wheels. They barely went around the bearing, And
39?
39 millimeter. Wow. Yeah, that was the smallest I ever sold. And I was thinking, how do you go down the street with this thing? You're like bump, 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 going over the sidewalk.
Especially in Detroit.
Yeah. And then the smaller boards, not that many people could balance on it, so it really slowed down for a few years.
Because of how hard it was for people trying it new.
Yeah, I think it wasn't as easy to balance on for most people. And if you make something that's easier for people, more people are going to do it, But 94 or 95, the X Games came out. Next thing you know, boom, skateboarding took off again.
Were you worried during that period, like 91 to 94? Was everything really slow? Were you kind of stressing?
So skateboarding was slow, but rollerblading had blown up. Especially the recreational
That's why
rollerblading.
you diversify.
Exactly, and the aggressive rollerblading just started coming up right then. And aggressive rollerblading didn't really happen until the 90s, like late 80s, and then into the 90s, and that got kind of big too. But recreational was just off the hook. It was like a fitness trend, so that supported the shop. And then I'd have pro teams come through and do demos, and like 10 skateboarders would show up, and they're bitching at me about selling rollerblades. And I'm like, dude, if I wasn't selling rollerblades, this team would not be here. I'm at least supporting skating at this time, And then snowboarding also had taken off at that time. So like in the early 90s, snowboarding was kicking ass. Skateboarding was kind of slow at that time, but it had kicked ass all through the 80s. And then rollerblading kind of took off, and I had that going for a minute. And then 95 to 99, everything was going good because the X Games came out, and they had Winter X Games with snowboarding in it, and that became real popular. And so that was good times. And then Then 9/11 hit in 2001, and that slowed everything down. People stopped spending money, except on like duct tape and water and survival kits and stuff like that. And then we just started making the comeback in like 2007, 2008, and that's when I was had to move. I didn't tell you, I took over the Van skate park in Novi in about 2003.
In Cali?
No,
No,
there was one in Michigan here, and
Okay.
so I took this one over and ran it for 5 years, and then the landlord went bankrupt. New guy bought the mall, and he kicked me out. So I had to find a building, and I found this new building, and I took all the ramps apart. I cataloged all 3 layers, and stored it on pallets in a warehouse for a year. Found the building I'm in now, and then moved it all over there and reassembled it.
And what year was
I
that?
think I made it better. That was 2008. And then I closed on the building in July of 2008, and then in September 2008, the whole world
The
crashed.
recession.
And then everything went downhill. So I had 5 locations at that time, and over the next 5 years, I ended up having to close a bunch of stores and downsize. But like,
Were they big losses, or were you able to get out kind of even at least?
no, I was losing a lot of money. Like I lost a lot of money, like over $250,000 a year after year. Luckily, I had a bunch of inventory, and I was selling all that off. All my vendors got paid. All my landlords got paid.
But you weren't getting paid.
I was not getting paid.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my wife Linda left me in 2010. But like, I gotta say, very lucky to have had her for the 18 years we were together. She was, probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And unfortunately, went a different direction and went on tour with Alice Cooper after that. But and then when she left, I found out she did more than half the work, and I'm like, man, I'm really gonna have to work now.
Oh man,
And
that's like if Kelly left me, I'd be like, what do I do now?
and again, sometimes I'm like, I can't believe she left me, and then sometimes I'm like, I can't believe she stuck around this long. Because
When you're able to have like perspective looking back type of thing.
yeah, it's an odd lifestyle. It's definitely a labor of love, and and we worked really hard to get as far as we did, and with honestly with her help, and I got into this building and I'm stuck in it, so I had to fight all these banks and lawyers and stuff, and we worked it out, and I ended up with this one place which I think you guys like, and
love.
I'm happy to be there and provide for the community, because the kids need a place to come and skate, and it makes good human beings.
Well, one thing I love that you do is you can and you do build some of the craziest features known to man, but you build all levels. Like, you make a park where someone just starting out on a skateboard can skate, and then as they progress, there's new sections of your park to go to. And you used to call it, you make ramps that humans can skate.
Yeah, I like to say
Not
that.
superheroes.
Yeah, I like to say that. And I've helped build about 15 public skate parks. I've been involved heavily in a lot of those and raising money for them. And I try to explain to people that are trying to design public parks is to don't forget day one skaters. How are you going to get more people to use it if there's no place to learn? And you can make things that are functional for better skaters, but also functional to learn within the same realm of ramps that you put together. And I always say you don't need the Tony Hawk skate park, the 20,000, 30,000 square foot skate park. You can have a curb and a bench and a quarter pipe in some local little park where the kids can, hit a bench, hit a quarter pipe, slap a curb, maybe a flat bar. And that's all you really need. And then on the weekends, you can go to the big skate park on the weekends.
After practicing during the week, too.
And then that way, between school and dinner, the kids can all hang out, with the cool T-shirt.
And homework.
And the pants and talk story and hang out and do some grinds and stuff. Yeah, homework. Yeah, bring that with them. And I'm working on my crooked grinds. So, but like there's certain things, and the way I look at when you design and build a park, there's a lot more to it than something that looks like a skate park. I equate it to, like, if you buy a board from a toy store or department store, it looks like a skateboard, but it's not really a skateboard.
Right.
Same with you could look at some ramps and go, it looks like a ramp, but it's not really functional, you know.
Yes.
Or the distance isn't proper, you know. So it's all about flow and distance, transition,
Yeah, the
angles of the
spacing.
banks, and making them solid so that they don't fall apart, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I also rely on a lot of people like yourselves and my team riders who are way better than me, and I talk to them all the time. Like, what do you like? What do you think about this? How do you feel this would go? You know, and I got one of my team riders, Dustin Blauvelt, who actually won a medal in the X Games. I rely on him a lot on some design ideas, and then I've got a rollerblade team. I got a snowboard team. I actually got some kids on scooters now, even though I used to never allow scooters, but now it's a thing. So they need a place to go too. And as long as you teach them park etiquette, they're not as big a bother. You know, as long as they're not sitting on the obstacles and crossing traffic, and they're taking turns, you know, and then they're just one of the crew, you know. And
I love that.
but you got to build things, and I have a little section up front that's fenced off, so there's no cross traffic, nothing's more than a foot tall. Good place to learn balance and tricks, and then actually some of the better guys practice on the smaller obstacles and then take them to the bigger ones, and then the park gets bigger as you go further back. You know?
And you have a full-size vert ramp,
I do.
which is, I guess, a little more popular now.
Down to a 3-foot mini ramp.
3-foot mini ramp, yeah.
50-foot wide,
Yeah,
3
it's
foot.
50-foot wide, 3 foot.
There's
I got a 50.
extension to
I got a
4 foot.
64-foot wide, 6-foot one. I got a 80-foot wide bowl, wooden bowl,
I love
clover
that,
leaf,
yeah.
built by Team Payne. Build the best ramps around.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
they built that one?
they built the bowl, yeah.
That's awesome.
Because that's their forte, is bowls. And I mean, I've built bowls before, but like when you want to build something like that, you call in the best.
Yeah.
And Team Payne's the best. And then when it came to the vert ramp, it was my 40th anniversary in 2019. So I wanted to do an all 80s theme, and I'm like, hell, we built vert ramps, you know, back in the day, and that'll be a thing. Because when I opened the park here in Royal Oak, Michigan, nobody skated vert. So, and I got the tall ceiling. It's got a 30-foot ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got the tall ceilings to have a vert ramp in there. And then everybody's like, well, nobody's riding vert right now, so let's just, you know, build all this other stuff. So I did. And then when it came to the anniversary, I wanted to do an all 80s. Actually, I was going to do a street contest, like a Savannah Slamma type street contest, and it was going to be just a launch ramp and a curb and a wall ride. And that was going to be it. You know, we were going to do a contest and go retro. And I talked to Steve Van Doren, and I said, you know, I'm planning on doing this 40th anniversary, and I want to bring some pros in. But you guys do these events all over the world. I said, I just don't want to do one on the weekend you're doing them because everybody's going to be there. You know.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, we're coming out. I'm gonna barbecue. We're gonna bring some guys. Let's make it happen. And Steve came out and barbecued, and he brought out. I was gonna get Caballero, who was lifelong, never been to modern yet, and I wanted Cab to come, but he broke his leg. Motocross that year and couldn't make it, so they substituted Bucky Lasik, and I'm like, okay, that's good.
Great sub.
Bucky works, and I love that guy. And then, of course, Christian Hosoy, who I love and known a long time.
Oh, yeah, great
and,
dude.
And Andy McDonald came. Tony Magnuson was there.
Wow.
Ron Allen came. Paul Schmidt was there. Bill Danforth, the Michigan's first pro, legendary skater from Michigan. Bill Toko skated. A bunch of guys came. And then Tony Hawk showed up unannounced and skated doubles on that ramp with Andy Mack.
Oh, man, that's sick.
That just warmed my heart, man. It was
That is so
it was an
cool.
epic day. And there
What
was,
a break-in of the ramp,
yeah,
too.
how about that, huh?
Wow.
And then check this out. So there was 1,000 people there for that. And there was people that I hadn't seen in 25 years who were kids in the 80s who came to this thing. And they had seen Tony Hawk when he was 17 at the Michigan School for the Blind fundraiser that he came to one time. And everybody was reminiscing about that, and it was an epic event. Gerald Valley, another local pro, he was announcing, and Bill Ferguson from Kazoo Skate Zoo, legendary place out in Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
He came and rode. It was just a huge reunion of, you know, all the people that are still in it, and it was just made for a really good day.
Wow.
You know?
That is wild.
And it's funny because I didn't invite any of my relatives because I thought of it as another skate event. I didn't think of it as any big deal, you know. But my brother and his wife and his kids came up from North Carolina. All my cousins were there. My sister was
Oh,
there.
it's like a big family reunion.
All my family came. My cousin, all my cousins from all over the place came.
And you got to host them all.
And I got
That's
to
the
host
best
them all.
part.
Needless to say, I was really busy that day, but I got to see them all, and it was just something else that
That's special.
I didn't look at it as like any iconic thing. I just looked at it as another skate event. And here's George doing another skate event, and then the family came, and that's what made me realize it was special. You know, making it this far.
Well, you're bringing people together too from all walks of life, and it's a common ground where people just. The main thing is skateboarding too. It's like it doesn't matter what language you speak, what culture you come from. It's like skateboarding.
Yeah, there's no color, there's no religion, there's no gender.
Exactly.
If you're skateboarding, you're a skater, and everybody gets along. You know, our rules, no attitudes. You know,
I love that.
Yeah,
That's the best rule. In my basement, the jam room, there's a fake sign that doesn't exist, but it says no bad notes.
no
Like
bad
there's no
notes.
such thing.
Exactly.
That's the best. You know, Nick Mullins he put together the first adaptive skate meetup at your at Modern.
He did.
And that's the first time I ever came there.
Yeah.
And that was my like intro to really learning how to skate. And it was like my life changed after that weekend. Like so much that I learned how to you had a ledge there that's like ankle high.
Right.
And Dan taught me how to 50-50 on it. I never thought I'd be able to grind anything in my entire life. I thought I could never leave the mini ramp, and I'll never be better than I am on the mini ramp. I could just do some like rock to fakies and bullshit. And I learned a 50, and I was like, oh, it's fucking on now. Like I got the bug that weekend. Just like Nick putting that together, you hosting it,
Yes, sir.
and everyone showing up was just like the most monumental skate part of my life, like part of my life in skateboarding. Like it opened a whole new world for me, and it just, oh man, it was incredible. And I remember walking around there like 2 years ago, like how the hell am I ever gonna skate here? And slowly by slowly, like you and Nick and people bring you around and showing you different features and stuff, and you just slowly start attacking things, and it's just incredible. And my favorite is you'll freaking stand there for 2 hours with a camera just filming us and letting us get the clip. Last night we're skating. George, we're like an hour in. George's phone dies, and me and Dan are so in this battle. George is like, I gotta go put my phone on the charger. He comes back with a fucking iPad, and he doesn't even know how to use the damn thing, but he's filming us over and over, and it was just incredible. Like that place is such, like, I have a local shop, but Modern's my home. Like, I truly feel when I walk in those doors, like,
Appreciate that.
like I'm home. Like, especially in skateboarding, it's like no judgment, no ego. Like egos go out the window there. Everything is just support each other, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And you guys are inspiring. That's why I love being around you guys. I said just as much as it influences you guys, maybe it influences me. Because I mean, this is some of the more special stuff I've ever done is hanging around with you guys, because I learned a lot. Like even with Nick one time, he's like, so I was saying, like, you guys are so inspiring, and you teach me a lot. And I was saying, Nick, one time he comes to me and he's like, you got speakers in the middle of that 6 foot, and I'm thinking, I strung them up like at the time 12 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And he goes, because that's how I tell where I am on the ramp. If it starts getting softer, I'm going to off center, so I got to get back over to where it's louder, and I can tell where I am. And then I watch you guys, and you cheer somebody on a trick they did, and I'm like, how the hell do you know what they did? And they're like, I can hear it. That's a Smith grind.
Nick can
that's
call
a 50-50.
Nick can call out any trick on a mini ramp, especially like. He knows what I just did. I'm like, how the fuck did you just know that? And Dan knows like any flip trick or like grind on a ledge. He like knows when I do a crook or a 50. It's like insane.
And you know, sound is kind of your sight. You know, I learned that. That's how you know what's going on. I learned about these beeper boxes you guys have because like we didn't want Nick flying off the vert ramp into the wall or something. You know, so I'm like, dude, I'm getting you these things. And he said, well, I break them all the time. Like, and I talked to Justin Bishop, and he's like, yeah, I break them all the time. And I'm like, so I bought 4 of them, you know, just in case, you know, have spares and stuff. And then, like you were saying, you know, like Dan was teaching you how to do some street stuff, and Dan, you've been such an inspiration to anybody on the street because most of the blind guys I've met are like, yeah, I can ride transition because I know what I got. Well, you go out and you hit stuff that you can't see
in the actual streets.
Yeah, in the streets, and that inspires these guys. And what are they doing? They're starting to do it now too. And I'm like, that's inspiring for me, you know, because to me, it's all about learning how to do something. You know, you're advancing. And I tell everybody, I said, you don't have to be the best person at modern to be accepted. You know, as long as you're a little bit better than you were yesterday, everybody accepts you in here, you know. And
skateboarders want to see, they want to see you try, you know.
Yeah.
You can see that if you love it. You can really tell if someone loves it.
Like if you're slamming and getting back up too.
Yeah, like, oh, he's down. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's everybody remembers their first day, and they remember how many lumps they took to get as good as they are.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, keep it up. Like I was lucky enough in the 90s, like I said, before internet, we're all making money on snowboards, and I got flown to Switzerland with nitro snowboards, and we were riding on this 1,000-year-old glacier in the middle of the Swiss Alps and stuff. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. But down in the town, there's just all these soccer fields and everything, and right in the middle of all it was a half pipe, and all these, it was this big like international am contest, and all these amps were like getting 15 foot of air out of the half pipe and shit, out of the snowboard half pipe, and then they had this one little like not little, it was probably like 6 foot mini ramp in the middle of this soccer field area. And all the skaters were there, and there was people from Japan, all over the world, and not everybody could speak the other person's language, but everybody understood skating. And if you looked at a guy skating, you said, I know about how long he's been skating, and I know how many lumps he took to get that good.
And when they land the trick, everyone's stoked. You don't have to speak the same language.
Yeah, and there was like guys like Mark Frank Montoya, like he's an old, he was a big time snowboarder, skateboarder guy back then, and he was there, and there was people from Japan that couldn't speak English, and all we did is by just being around each other, we all understood we were skaters. There was no nationality or anything. It was great, and that's the beauty of skateboarding. You know, it teaches you perseverance. You know, you got to fail 100 times in order to succeed. You got to pick yourself up at the floor and dust yourself off, and it builds good character. You know,
and the most humble skaters are the ones that have been through all that and see someone going through it and offer help, like giving back. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's really important in any professional, like any profession or sport you're in. Once you get to a certain level, I think it is important to give back. And like going back to modern, it's like, who the fuck would let 6 fucking blind guys come and skate your skate park where the waivers aren't in Braille and they just got signs saying skate at your own risk? I don't know that. Like, it's just so humbling and so generous of you to have that like confidence and just letting people learn, and like it really it gave me confidence to go off into other, because I've said this before in here, like if there was more than 3 people at a skate park, I'd leave. Like I wouldn't skate because I'd be scared. But I'm like, I fucking skated at modern. I could skate anywhere.
You can
type
skate
thing.
anywhere.
It's like it really gives you this confidence, not only in skateboarding, but it translates to life. It's all life lessons.
Yeah, and the one thing I noticed too is like when we got all you guys together, and thanks Nick for that as well. And the everybody in their own different area. We had people from L.A., Denver, Australia now, New Jersey, Detroit, of course,
California,
and all over the place, and
Georgia,
and each of you are like one of the very few, if any, in your town that does this blind. And then when you get all together, just hanging around you guys that has similar issues with not only skating but with life, it was very humbling for me, and it's very educational for me to realize, how you guys handle life, and the fact that you guys keep a positive attitude about it. It's just so inspiring, and that's. I love you guys, man. I don't know what else to say, but like you guys
Love
inspire
you,
me.
man. You're like freaking. You're like an uncle to me. Like, I just love you.
Truly selfless and like
The most selfless person.
hosting everybody, driving,
And the
everybody.
driving you do, and the
Filming and-
giving us drinks and food, like making sure
Opening
we're not
your-
dying. You're like 2 hours in, you guys probably need a drink, don't you? Need some water.
I consider all the people that come in the, part of the modern family, so to speak, and and that's the whole thing. You got to be welcoming. And I say that's how you should treat everybody in life. That's just been my upbringing. Is that if I'm using anybody else's material or cars or whatever, I treat them better than I treat my own. And when it comes to people coming in the park, and I hope that my employees, impress people about this too, that we're there to serve the customer. And that's how I look at business in general. I've heard of a lot of skate shops like, oh, that guy vibed me because I'm a parent and I don't know shit about skating. And they give me a bunch of shit about it. And I'm thinking, why would you vibe your customers? You want them to be happy.
No,
and,
that's happened to me at music stores, and it rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because some people don't have the knowledge, and you're there to learn.
Right. And so we treat, and a lot of parents say that. They're like, man, I came in there, I had all these, what I feel was dumb questions. And you guys, even my young guys that work for me, they're like, hey, answered all my questions for me.
I've met lifelong friends at your shop, like Izzy, for example.
Izzy, yeah.
I talk to him to this day. And like Bennett, who taught me the heel flip that one night. I battled my first ever heel flip till like 3 a.m. at Modern. I remember I had to lay down because I couldn't breathe at the end.
Right. This guy Bennett you spoke of, he drives 2.5 hours one way to the park 2 or 3 days a week because he likes Modern that much. And we just made him Skater of the Month this month. And
oh, that's amazing.
We do a Skater of the Month. We put him on the wall and he gets to skate for free for the month and all that. And we just did that this month actually. And he was here a couple days ago, as a matter of fact.
Shout out to Bennett.
Yeah. He's a super nice guy, and he rips too.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times I don't get to see everybody that skates in the park. Like a lot of people come and go. Yeah, yeah. And so when I saw the clip we posted of him skating, I'm like, damn, he's really damn good, And I've seen him skate in the hallway a little bit because that's where I'm mostly walking around. And but I don't have a lot of time to watch every single person skate in there. But I say if you want to get good, you come to Modern, and that's a good place to learn. And we've taught I figured well over 25,000 lessons since I started, and try to turn people on to it. I've had people come up to me that were like 25, and they're like, dude, you taught me how to drop in when I was 15. It was the greatest day of my life.
Dude, you taught Coco. I'll never forget that. You taught Coco to drop in.
Shout out to Coco.
Yeah, Coco. He's freaking dropping on everything these days.
He's having a squishy day.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I want to ask you, because you've been in the game for so long,
Sure.
especially even in business, like 44 years, I guess now.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer.
No.
What would you say is your biggest, would you mark as your biggest success or like milestone you hit while doing all that?
Yeah.
And with that, what do you, if any, what is your biggest regret?
Okay. So I say the biggest milestone, honestly, after the crash of 2008, when everything was in free fall, and I had 5 locations, 2 indoor skate parks, big rents, was to be able to get through it with everybody that was important getting paid, the vendors, even I probably could have got out of some leases early and stuff, but I didn't play that game. I stayed till the end of my leases and stuff, and survived. I had to close 4 out of 5, and ended up with this one big one that's more than enough to handle. But I'd have to say probably one of my surprising successes is to be able to pull through that, because I'll tell you a quick story. I'd say 2014, Big Hank that helps me out with mechanical stuff at the shop. He says, hey, can I borrow $100 because I got to pay my rent this month? And I said, I don't have $100. And But I have this box of change, and we sat and we rolled up change, and I gave him
$100
$100 worth of change.
Of course.
That
From
he
the
had-
video games?
No, it was just change that I'd been throwing in the bucket forever. And,
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and that's all I had, and I really didn't even have $100 in the bank because I was so broke, and we were fighting all these battles with these banks and everything, and selling off inventory and trying to make it all happen.
And you counted out the change and gave it to him.
We rolled it up, and now he's like a handyman, carpenter, plumber kind of guy, and he's making $35 an hour and doing good. And I survived, and I'm still able to stay open, and actually, and that was before COVID, so I'm proud of the fact that I made it because and real quickly I had this, like back in the 90s when I was making all this money, like all my employees had insurance and we had profit
Medical,
share and
yeah.
all this stuff, and then 2000 came along, 9/11, everything slowed down. In 2008 I couldn't afford to do that anymore, so we stopped doing it in the 2000s and stuff. And so just after COVID, I'll tell you that story in a minute. But like after COVID, I actually did pretty good. And once
The boom when everyone
once everybody needed,
Yes.
wanted to have fun, all of a sudden.
skateboarding was the rage again. Like it
Yeah, and but I talked to my financial guy, and I said, and I was talking about Linda, and I said, man, I think she left me because she thought I was going to go under, and this is my financial guy, and he goes, hell, I thought you were going to go under. I'm like, yeah, that's how it was.
So even the people that are supposed to be helping you had a lot of doubt in it.
And but like I say, failure's not an option. You got to keep moving, roll
That's
up your
what I
sleeves.
say. It's
Mhm.
and quitting's not an option.
And I'd wait till TV dinners went down to $2 a piece instead of $2.50, and I'd buy like 5 of them, and I'd be good for the week. And it was tough times, man. And but all my employees got paid.
Do you
I
have
didn't,
any
no.
advice or like
Mhm.
like a mindset or tools that you used during that time of really facing failure, like that it was like almost an inch away, like someone in that position? Like, what would you tell them?
Well, something I learned like way back in the beginning that served me really well. There was a book, probably when I was a teenager, by Dale Carnegie, and then the one thing I took out of this book was you can't worry about things you have no control over. So, and the point is let's say, let's say there's a decision to be made, a financial decision, whether I'm going to get a loan or something on Monday, and today's Friday. I could either sit up all weekend and worry about it and constantly worry about it and lose all sorts of sleep and get sickly and stuff, and whatever's going to happen on Monday is going to happen out of my control. Or I could get a good night's sleep each day, do what I can positive to move forward with whatever I'm doing, and then on Monday the decision is going to be the same. So I have generally chose not to worry about stuff like
Just
that.
control the things you can control.
Yeah, and then one of the guys, it's funny because we do this big rollerblade event, and we did it a bunch of years running, and we just did another one that was the 10th anniversary of the last one. And one of my rollerblade guys, who's now very successful in business and everything, I didn't think about it, but he told me, he says one of the things he learned from me is be willing to go for it. Be willing to lay it all out there and try to make it happen and take risks. And because a lot of people won't do that, and there's somewhat calculated risks, and some things I've done were kind of silly that I shouldn't have probably done in hindsight. But like I've done, like you said, a lot of these promotions and events, jumping over cars and dunking basketballs on rollerblades and, 80-foot snowboard jumps. I did a snowboard contest at Alpine Valley in 1985 in a blizzard, and I told the guys, I said, you gotta at least do something on the first 2 hits because I can't see you on the 3rd hit, That's all we're going to judge is the first 2 walls, and, then we did these like rollerblade 10K skates where they blocked off downtown East Lansing, and that's the money we raised for Children's Hospital, and all these people came in from all over the country, and just big, prolific events, the Danny Way contest, being in the parade, we've done demos, we've done halftime shows for the Pistons, we've done stuff at Comerica Park, we've had that metal ramp on the 20-yard line at Ford Field. Just we've done stuff for the auto show, and I just like doing big profile events. And to be honest with you, mostly it's about promoting the sports that we, like to do. Skateboarding. In my case, I've diversified into rollerblades, and even now I got this. The scooter thing, I considered a 2-pound bicycle. And, they basically do the same tricks, bar spin, tail whip, flares, stuff like that, And somehow they can flip it over their head, and I don't know how they land on them, but they do. And
2-pound bicycle.
It is, and they're expensive too. And some of them, they're not, it's kind of like skateboards, there's good ones and there's not so expensive ones. But like when I do a demo, and even I don't even sell bikes, but there's a great bike shop in town called Albies, and I usually have some of their guys do demos with us because everybody likes seeing big air, and bikes and rollerblades do big air, and the scooter guys do big, and so do skateboarders too. But like skateboarders do a lot more technical stuff, to be honest with you, but I like demonstrating just extreme sports in general, because if you're in any kind of extreme sports, you're at least getting off the couch. You're not playing the video games. You're doing something active.
Staying off the internet.
You're hanging with your friends. You actually got to look somebody in the eye, talk to them, and you instead of texting them all the time, and you generally find friends for life.
I'm sitting with 3 of them right now.
There you go. And I got this thing on Wednesday night. Okay, I call it Fossil Night.
Oh, the old guys, right?
It's 20 and over.
20 and over.
I said it's like gymnastics. Once you hit 20, you're over the hill.
Oh, shit.
And so the beauty of it is that, there's 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and all the way up to 50-somethings. And in my case, 60-somethings. And on the weekend between Christmas and New Year's, it's the biggest one of the year, because it's the reunion when everybody who grew up with somebody that skated, who's moved out of town, got a family, went to college, whatever, they come and they meet their friends that they grew up skating with, and they get a chance to say hey during the holidays, because they're in to visit their relatives and stuff. And it's one of the more fun nights where it's just a huge reunion every year with the guys that grew up at Modern. Anybody that's been there in the last 20 years usually comes by, So I love it. People are like, why don't you retire? And I'm like, I just go hang out at a skate park. I might as well hang out on my own. I can build shit I can ride.
You're doing what you love.
Yeah, and I do love it. I do absolutely love it. Dan and I were talking about being on the water, a pontoon boat or something like that, and I said, somebody, I happen to live on a lake, and I know now, Dan, you got access to a lake, and you fish, and you love it. And I said, I really love being on the water, but I love being at Modern more, And I love like snowboarding out west, but I really love being at Modern more. I still love all of it, and I'll do it all, but like there's something about this place that I just love, and the community needs it. So I'm sticking around for a while.
We do need it. Thank you.
Yeah. And like I said, I get to meet people like you. Like, dude, every now and then, like somebody calls and like, hey, can I come by? Or like, like out of the blue, Parker last night, blew my mind.
Yeah.
This is a guy from Traverse City, just, he ain't no big pro. He's not in a magazine or anything like that. And that guy riffs, man. It was just fun to watch him. And I had Jamie Bestwick call me one time from Chicago. He's like, hey, can we come down and ride bikes tonight at your park? And I'm like, it's not bike night, but yeah, you can. Come on down. And me and some other guys. So him and like 7 other guys came down, and they just shredded that park on bikes. And it was they ended up driving to Toronto the next day, flew to the Asian X Games. And he won a gold medal in vert at that time. I didn't have a vert ramp when he came in that time, but he did. He actually rode the vert ramp in Novi when I had it. He came by once before. And it's just times like that just make it worthwhile. Matt Hoffman came and rode that vert ramp.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because my ceilings are 30 feet, the ramp's 13, so the beam's like 11 feet above the coping. And he was sitting there, and he's looking at the ceiling. He's like, and I was thinking, man, is this guy gonna ride or what? He's looking at the ceiling, and then he looks at me. And he goes, "Your ceiling's too low." And I'm like, "For you, yeah." And he rides with no brakes.
Oh,
and so he's got to calculate this. He can't like accidentally hit the beam, hit the coping, fall to flat. But he rode and he killed it, of course. And then actually when I was talking about Caballero, one time they were doing an art show in town, and one of my friends just said, "Hey, they're doing this art show, and Cab's going to be there, and I think Matt Hensley and Christian and all that." And so I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "You want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So I went, and we hung out, and it was a good thing. It was like an anti-drug thing, and they did this art show, and I bought a few art pieces and wanted to support and all that. And then Bill Tocco is a local pro who's was all that back in the day, and now he's more into like physical fitness kind of things. And he calls me up and he says, "Hey, do you mind if we come by and skate your park tonight at 10:00?" And I'm like, yeah, come on by, And so the next thing you know, I got Christian Hosoi, Matt Hensley, and Toko comes by to skate. Who else was Christian, Matt Hensley?
Yeah.
There was somebody else there too. Oh, Cab.
Cab
comes by.
did come.
So Cab comes by, and I'm like, oh my God, there's Steve Caballero in my place, and I was so honored. And
Dan and I met Cab without knowing it was Cab.
Really?
Like, it was too late, basically, by the time we figured out. We were like, wait, was that fucking Steve Caballero? Because we were on the vert ramp at Tony's, and all of a sudden, this really sweet guy, like, soft-spoken, "Hey, guys, what's up? I'm Steve." And, like, walks away. He's like, "It's so cool to meet you guys." And then he walks away, and we're like, "Steve, there's only, like, one Steve that would be here." And he was gone, and we're like, "Wait, that was fucking Steve Caballero."
Yeah, super, super nice guys.
Humble guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those guys. He rode the vert ramp, and I was just on cloud nine. That was like a dream come true for me. And, it's moments like that make it special, and the whole community of skating just in general to me is a special community, and like every community's got bad apples and stuff like that, but like generally speaking, like you said, most people are encouraging. They're gonna be supportive of you no matter what level you're at, and I like teaching people day one on up, how to get going.
Because the stoke, it's like the stoke is real.
It is, yeah. It's it makes good people. I think. I just personally think it makes better human beings.
Really, it makes hard worker like you about
I believe
having
that
to put
firmly,
the time.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm surrounded by all my employees are stellar people and good skaters too, because you hang around modern, you can't help but get good, and they push each other and stuff like that, and then I try to tell them my philosophies. Just you treat people like you want to be treated. And
The golden rule.
it is. And that's how that's how you should run life. Generally speaking, that's my opinion. And like I said, I love what I do, and I'm going to stick around as long as I can. Pretty much how I look at it at this point.
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully, another 60 years.
Yeah, that's what I said.
We gotta keep modern alive.
It was funny because, Tony came to the 40th anniversary, and when he broke his leg last year, or like a little over a year ago now, I texted him, and I was like, I just, want to say I'm really sorry you got hurt. Hope you're feeling better and everything, because we're kind of expecting you to come to the 50th anniversary in 2029.
Man.
Hope you get better. No, that was my text to him. So I was like,
That's great.
because I try to stick around, what the hell,
Man, that was. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, you got it. Were you going to ask something?
No.
Oh, I was just gonna ask. I think we should bring it over to. First of all, thank you for sharing all this. It's really incredible to hear like your perspective in life and the journey you've gone through. And I know there's thousands of things in between, and I could sit here and take up your time for like 5 hours.
No, that's good. I love you
questions,
guys.
man. I call you just to get the dopamine when I call and you answer Anthony fucking Ferraro. It just makes my day, dude. Like I look forward to like the fact that I'm able to just call you and like I just talk to you about any time something happens in my life or anything. Like I really do. You're on my list of people like that I need to call, and I've just learned a lot from you, and I appreciate that. I want to switch it over before we end.
Okay.
We ask everyone some peeves in life.
You have any pet
you got any
peeves?
like
Pet peeves?
things that really piss you off?
Really pissed me off. Well, I frustrate myself because I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist because I'm far from perfect, but like
You want to do things perfect. Like you want to do it the best possible.
I'll tell you, this is a funny one, and it comes into building things. I'm the kind of guy that will measure something out to the tightest tolerance possible, and then that board won't fit in there because it's like a sliver too long, and I to a fault, like whether it's putting a door in, like a door jamb in or something like that, or building the ramp. I want to have the tolerances so close that I measure it out just right, and then when I cut it, it's like a sliver too long, and it's really difficult to cut that sliver and keep it straight. So if it's one thing from a carpentry standpoint, that's something that pisses me off. And I know I'm going to do it. And every time I draw it up, I'm like, okay. Don't do it too tight, and then I always do it. And then I sit there and I kick myself.
I have such a hard time knowing how much extra that the blade itself is going to take off.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Dan
Yeah.
amazes me with his carpentry. He taught me the other day how to use a sawzall.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We have ant sawzall, a little
drill.
piece of wood, drill it,
'Cause
pilot a hole and drill it and screw it in.
It's actually the floor behind you.
Oh, is
I
it?
built that. Because no one's ever given me the chance as a blind person to use power tools.
George
No
can
one-
teach us
George-
a lot, I think.
Like you're that type of person that would let a fucking blind guy with the right supervision.
Yes.
Here, use this table saw. I'll show you how.
Yeah, it's right over here.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate how much you give back. I think it's really important because you're not selfish in any shape or form. And I think it's really important for people to learn from is like when you're trying to do things in life, business or sports or whatever it might be, it goes a way longer way. It goes way further to give back, and more things come around that way when you're just taking for yourself the whole time with like a mission to get rich or something. Because I could tell 1,000 times over that's never your. Listen, we'd all love a lot of money in life, but that doesn't fix all your problems. And it's just really awesome how much you reinvest and give back. And I'm still tripped out over the fact that he used to donate to the Michigan School of the
Isn't that
Blind.
funny?
It's really mind blowing.
Well, I tell you, doing modern is a labor of love, and you guys make me feel special. I tell you what, just even being on this podcast, I feel like I'm somebody now, so it's cool.
No, I'm very happy to share your story. I'm elated, honored to know you.
Is there
So
anything
you're
you
a
want to
great-
leave people
Great
with?
example to live by. So thank you.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, I would say just accept people as they are, and one love.
One love.
Well, where can people find you? Is there any way modernskateandsurf.com? What are all the plug everything?
Okay, it's a modernskate.com, and just all one word, lowercase, modernskate.com. And then we're in Royal Oak, Michigan. If you look up Modern Skate and Surf, because I put that and surf on the end of the sign in '85, and I actually do sell surfboards to surf the Great Lakes. They're made in Manhattan Beach, California, and they're
awesome.
pinched rails, snub nosed, a little bit thicker.
You have 7 mil wetsuits.
I had 7. I was actually in Huntington Beach, and they have the surf museum or something like that. They have a little section on Michigan, and they have a picture of 2 guys walking down the beach at Bay Harbor. Not Bay Harbor. What's the town straight west?
Ann
of us?
Arbor? No.
No.
What the heck?
West side of the state?
Yeah, the west side of the state. It's
Leland? No,
the closest thing
Traverse? Right by Traverse?
Harbor Springs. I don't know. Well, anyway, it's on the west side of the state. It's a beach, and it's got these 2 guys walking up the beach, and they got surfboards in their arms, and they're wearing 5 mil suits, boots, hoodies, and gloves. And there's ice and snow on the ground, and they're getting in the water. And you do have to be a diehard surfer in Michigan, because the best surf is when there's a big storm in Chicago or
Grand Haven?
or it's called Grand Haven. That's it. It's
There we go, Grand Haven.
Michigan, closest thing to Huntington Beach you can get from a setting standpoint.
From a set, yeah.
Yeah, and they got the boardwalk, they got the fire pits, they got the sand. That's a beautiful place, and don't quite have the surf they got, but you got to wait for a freighter to drive by or something.
Don't they do the freighters? They surf the
Yeah.
freighter.
Yeah.
Some of
wakes
them have
sometimes.
heaters in their wetsuits. They built these.
Yeah, they got the technology nowadays is so good. There was a place up in the UP called Casualties, and they surfed in February in Lake Superior, which is insane. But they said they
Superior's
could handle
cold mid-August.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Freezing.
And but yeah, so I actually do have. That's where the and surf came up where I sold wakeboards. I was a water skier. I sold water skis for a long time, and then because I was a water guy, and then I sold wakeboards. That was the first store in Michigan to sell wakeboards, and then now it's wake surf and all that stuff. But I don't actually do any water sports because it all went mail order, and you have to diversify and change over time. But
You adapt.
yeah, just to adapt to it and find out what's popular and try to stay in business, so I can keep skating.
So modernskate.com, and then you have the Instagram where people could check out like the park too. Online.
Oh yeah, at Modern Skate, and then Facebook is Modern Skate, and then we've got Twitter too, but I don't know what that is. I think it's
Probably Modern Skate.
Modern Skate.
You'll be able to find it if
Most
you Google
likely.
it. But
Yeah.
everyone, if you're around Royal Oak or just even live in,
If you're in Michigan, if you're in
or
Ohio, if you're in Chicago,
if you're in
anywhere.
New Jersey, if you're in California,
Come on out.
you haven't lived until you went to this skate park.
He's always building new things too. It's amazing.
And
park.
it's where you can get the best gear for all those sports. So
Yes.
even if you want to get started, come by Modern.
Go online. You have online shop as
I
well.
do
right?
actually. Yeah,
Buy
modernskate.com.
something if you're.
Yeah.
Buy the
Honestly.
clothes, get some Modern swag.
Come on in.
They
Yeah,
even got
we
one. They
appreciate
got
it.
onesies.
I do. I have modern onesies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well-
It's a family affair.
Well, thank you, George, and really. Is there
No,
anything
thank
else
you
you need
guys.
to promote or anything?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I like I said, you guys collectively with all the rest of the blind guys that have come in here and impaired guys like Shane and have totally inspired me, because I tell you what, if I ever think I have a problem, it can't be that bad for me, because you guys adapt to what has been dealt to you, and you move forward and keep a good light on things, and it's just like I said, it's how you should live life. Just look to the positive. The glass is half full.
And treat others how you want to be treated.
Exactly.
We love
And
you,
failure
George.
is not an option.
Failure is not an option.
This episode is a long time coming, so thank you. Thank you
Awesome.
for
I
your
appreciate
time.
you guys
Thanks for
having
making
me.
the trip, and
Absolutely.
as always,
Keep pushing in.
one love.
Keep pushing, and one love from Four Bad Eyes.